And now, back to the Dr. A Show with your host, Dr. Will Aguila.
Welcome back to the Dr. A Show. Our guest is Dr. Eben Alexander, best-selling author of Proof of Heaven, The Neurosurgeon's Journey into the Afterlife. Before the break, we were talking about Dr. Alexander lapsed into a coma that lasted 7 days, where he experienced an afterlife. We're talking about the dark place that seemed confining, but then you said something rescued you. Somebody or something rescued you. Tell us about that. What happened after that?
Right. It was what I call the realm of the earthworm's eye view, kind of like a bird's eye view, but, earthworm's eye. And I was rescued by this very clear light, slowly spinning fine white and gold filaments, and it was coming towards me. I had no body awareness. And as this light came closer, I realized it had associated a beautiful, perfect musical melody, and that was so welcoming and alluring after the pounding monotony and coarse boiling mud that I'd been through. And as it came towards me...
excuse me 1 second. So you could hear things or feel and touch?
Oh, yeah, very much. In fact, not only here, but in this next region, which I call the gateway, sounds and vision and everything were intermixed. I mean, it was purely experiential, conceptual flow. It was very hard to explain because it's totally different. In that realm, you don't see with the eyes, you don't hear with the ears, and therefore the experience itself can come in much more powerful and full and integrated ways. And that's exactly what I saw in that gateway. The most striking feature was that it was ultra real. It was far more real.
Well, I was going to ask you about that because do you think that what you experienced was the afterworld or just a bunch of neurons or brain cells that were firing off because of the inflammation from meningitis?
Well, see, that is actually kind of the crux of my entire experience in terms of trying to understand it. Because before all this happened, I would have told you that with severe meningitis, that's such a perfect model for mimicking human death. And with a severe, prolonged bacterial meningitis, you should inactivate any possibility for brain-based experience because the neocortex is the most powerful calculator in the brain. And modern neuroscience would tell you that if you don't have at least some part of the neocortex functioning, you could not have any kind of interactive, robust experience, nothing like what I had. I mean, that was the part that was so striking. And I tried to explain it for months. I was my own worst skeptic. I tried to explain the ultra-reality based on many different models of the brain in meningitis in trying to come to a way to explain this. And that's why I finally ended up writing this book, as I discussed all these hypotheses with other neuroscientists, trying to come up with a way, given severe bacterial meningitis, to explain these experiences, which clearly happened deep in the middle of coma and not at the beginning or the end, which was, one of my hypotheses was looking at that. But that could not have been, given some of the time stamps that showed me when this occurred. And so it was not, after a long analysis, I can tell you, no, it did not happen in the brain. And that's the explanation that is so kind of world-changing about it.
So let's go back to that. Then you had this light.
That beautiful, slowly spinning light turned into, it was a portal up into this valley. And I had no body image, but I was moving up through this verdant valley, very lush and green and fertile with flowers and blossoms opening up. And I was moving through it because I was a speck on this butterfly wing, absolutely gorgeous butterfly, beyond any earthly description. Certainly not an earthly butterfly, but that's the best word I can use to describe it. And millions of other butterflies, described with colors beyond the rainbow, all in this river of life, flowing along. Beside me on the butterfly wing, this beautiful girl, lovely face, dressed in simple clothes, yet vivid colors. Beautiful smile, high cheekbones, sparkling blue eyes. She never said a word, but her thoughts straight into my awareness. You are loved, you are cherished, you are dearly cared for forever. You have nothing to fear, and there's nothing you can do wrong in this realm. Doesn't mean there's nothing we can do wrong in the earthly realm, but there, nothing to do wrong, nothing I had to fear or worry about. The most comforting, unconditional love ever. Then this lovely breeze of perfect divinity. It was my awareness of God being there and every bit of that around me. And then out of this universe, I remember seeing the entire scene collapsed down. Our conventional three-dimensional space and time collapsed down, time into a loop, higher dimensional causality, everything collapsing down till I was out in this infinitely grand, inky black core, as I called it, with this divine, all-loving presence throughout, and this brilliant orb of light acting, I think the way I saw it was the orb was kind of a translator between me and that all-powerful, all-divine, all-loving source of all of the universe, and was told I was not there to stay, that I'd be going back.
So you think that did you met God? Was this God that you
Yes,
you met?
This is the very same all-loving presence and power that has given millions that very same view of the all-loving, all-powerful source at the core of the entire universe. All different religions, reading the afterlife literature going back 3,000 years, they're all referring to the same very real deity and presence, right?
Do you think that this light that you saw that would act as a translator for you, was that maybe the burning bush that spoke to Moses?
Well, I don't know. The thing to me that was most striking about all that was that there was a presence of three of us. In that, and again, This is completely outside of higher dimensional multiverse, even outside of the higher dimensional, what I call deep time, which is a different causality kind of our spiritual self, which is completely free compared to the very slow, lockdown, molasses-like river of time here in our universe. And in that outermost realm, there was a sense of that infinity with all of the higher multiverse collapsed like this very complex what I call an oversphere. But then that deity, that all-powerful, all-present, and all-loving source of all, and the orb of light, and my consciousness. And, of course, at this point, this is so far beyond Eben Alexander's consciousness. I mean, this is consciousness in the much higher sense, involving even beyond, earthly and into cosmic consciousness. But that it was a three-way conversation, and that was the thing that was so burned into me, and I'm not sure how to interpret it, but I can tell you that's exactly what I recall from that core experience. And I kept going back there because I would be there as I was taught many lessons about the love, the presence of evil, the higher dimensional entities and universes, and then I would tumble back into that earthworm eye view without any apparent cause. But I learned that by recalling the notes of the melody that originally brought in that spinning white light, that would open up back into that gateway, that lovely ultra-real valley, the beautiful butterfly, lovely girl beside me, very same. I could remember her face so clearly, and then back out to the core for more lessons and being told, you're not here to stay, you'll be going back. And I went through that cycle
Why
several
do you
times.
why do you think you were sent back?
Well, it took me more than a year to admit that, but I finally started to realize that maybe this did happen for some reason. I mean, for the longest time, I was my own worst skeptic. I was trying to explain this as a brain-based phenomenon, but the more I realized how sick I was, how rare the E. coli meningitis was, I mean, less than 1 in 10 million, and how rare, basically incalculable, my complete and fairly rapid recovery from that devastating meningitis was, the more I realized that I had to get to the bottom of all this because there had to be a message because of the severity of the illness, the rarity of it, the rarity of the recovery. And people would keep suggesting that, do you think it's happened for a reason? And I kept saying no, because I was trying to explain it as a doctor, as a scientist, trying to explain it just to help, fellow physicians and patients and families understand how in the world did I recover completely from a disease that should have completely destroyed me. And, there are other cases in the NDE literature where that happens, like Anita Morjani's Dying to Be Me, the book that's out now. She had lymphoma that was cured completely when she came back. And, it took me a very long time to understand how I could have such a complete recovery.
Now, you didn't believe in God before. You were skeptic about it. Now, are you a believer now?
Absolutely. And I know that death is not the end, that consciousness is primary, and that soul or spirit is eternal. I mean, those are all basically from neuroscientific principles, conclusions of my journey.
Very interesting. I recommend this book to everyone, Proof of Heaven, a very great read. Dr. Alexander, thank you for being on the show. Where can our guests find your book, and pretty much in any bookstore?
Yeah, they can find it anywhere. They can go to lifebeyonddeath.net. That's my website that has a lot more information about my story and about the book, and people can get the book there, get audio there at lifebeyonddeath.net.
Well, it's been a pleasure having you on the show.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I look forward to talking with you again.
Just in time for Valentine's Day, our next guest will tell us how you can match yourself to a perfect mate when the Dr. A Show continues. Stay with us.